I'm Coach Haley with Run Rewilded Integral Coaching, where we are all about embodying our liberation and running our wildest, most empowered, most joyful life. So today I'm going to be making a video talking about ankle strength and stability. So I want to start by saying, while I am a doctor, I am not a medical doctor, a doctor of physical therapy, or a chiropractor. I'm a PhD doctor, but I am a running coach, and I'm drawing from the wisdom of a lot of really brilliant medical professionals and run science to talk about things like heel whip. So you might have heard the term heel whip, and that's just as we run in our paw back in our swing phase. You might notice that you or maybe a running buddy of yours, their heel flicks out to the side or maybe across towards the middle of their body. And so heel whip can be a symptom of a muscle imbalance or an alignment issue. And unless it's causing you pain or injury, that's not necessarily something that we need to fix. But today we're going to be talking about ankle stability, which might have to do with heel whip, or it might have to do with an injury that you're coming off of, or maybe you're just running a little bit more power. Maybe you're noticing that your feet and your ankles are fatiguing towards the end of a run or a harder effort, and this is going to be for you. So I want to go back to talking just really briefly about heel whip. And what I want to say is that we honor our unique form. There is no perfect running form. Whatever keeps you running healthy and strong and feeling your best is your best running form. So one thing that research is showing is that our hips continue to widen throughout our lives. And so as this happens, then the angle between our hips, our knees, and our ankles actually is going to change, which can contribute to that heel whip and also some ankle instability. So while we're working on ankle stability today, the other thing that is really going to happen if you have heel whip or if you're having weaker ankles is that you really are going to benefit from working the whole kinetic chain, including strengthening your core. Tighter hip flexors and sleepy glutes, which a lot of us are prone to, especially when we have long commutes or when we have jobs that require us to sit for a long period of time. Those things are actually going to also contribute to that heel whip, just because we're not going to have the elongation that's really going to help us stay nice and aligned. So while we're working on ankles today, which is going to be helpful, also you're really going to see some benefits if we work the whole core. We really work on strengthening and stability in our core, and then working that kinetic chain through our hips, activating our glutes and really building strong glutes, working on opening up our hip flexors, so on and so forth. So that's a little bit of your a caveat before we get into it, and also some information about what we're strengthening and what's really going to help you run your wildest and most beautiful life and story. So I'm going to start with some seated exercises. I'm just going to take a mini band here, and the first one that we're going to do is an ankle eversion. So seated in a chair, you can just take your band and actually place it around the ball of your foot, okay? And I'm just going to I'm going to pull my legs apart, okay, not just my feet, but I want to make sure that my legs are far enough apart that I'm going to feel some tension. And I'm going to work one ankle at a time. So when I feel that tension and it's feeling like I'm actually using some effort to hold it apart, which is about hip width for me, I'm going to work just my right foot at a time. And I'm just going to use my ankle, not my knee, okay? Use my ankle and my foot to pull out, okay? This is also really going to help if you're struggling with shin splints. This is going to be a really great exercise. All the things that we're working on with ankles are going to be great for preventing shin splints. Ankle strength and stability is going to be your best friend in prevention and also treatment of shin splints. Okay, so I'm going to do 10 of those on the right side, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the left side. So we want to make sure, I mean, even my tendency, I have to be really mindful, and this is what's great about rewilding our running, is that rewilding our running is inviting intention and presence into the movement that we're doing, not in a hypervigilant way, but in a really mindful, meaningful way. We're creating meaning as we run and putting our full selves into our motion and into our experience. So my tendency too is to kind of bail out and use that knee to move. And I really want to be mindful about just using my ankles. Sometimes it can really help to actually like lift your foot off the ground and really work that ankle. Okay, so that's your first one. I recommend starting with 1 set of 10 with each feet. Okay, with each foot. The next one we're going to do is an ankle inversion. So same motion. So you notice I'm actually not even taking the band off, right? And I'm just going to raise my foot and place it right here. And then isolating just this movement from the ankle, I'm going to pull up with my toe and the ball of my foot, working just that right ankle, okay? So I'm going to do this again 10 times, switching feet, maybe adjusting the band if it starts to slip. And we're going to do the same thing with this one. Okay, so recommending 1 set of 10. If you're really struggling to get the quality of the motion in there, first of all, don't worry about the extent that you're moving. We want quality motion. And if the band is too high a resistance, you can always, I'm using a medium right now, but you can always go down to a lighter intensity of band. So the next one we're going to do is going to be a standing one. Again, my band is going to be around the balls of my feet. Okay. And we're just going to do some monster walks with our feet. So this is the same thing. You might have seen this being done with the bands around your ankles or around your upper leg. This is the same thing. We're just going to lead with the right foot, okay? And what I'm going to do is, instead of leading with my hips the way I do in a traditional monster walk, I'm going to lead with my forefoot here. So I'm going to turn out and step, turn out and step. So I'm pulling with my lower leg, okay? So I'm going to do 10 steps to the right and then going back 10 steps to the left. So you can see how I'm kind of duck footing with that left ankle and creating some muscle and some stability there. So those are 3 exercises you can do. And then the last one, I'm going to have you follow me over to these steps right over here. And this is kind of the opposite of a heel raise. So if you've done calf raises, we're going to do the opposite of that. And we're actually just going to, this is perfect because I've got railings on both sides. I'm going to drop my toes off of this step. My heels are nice and firm on the step, so I'm not falling, and then pulling up. So dropping and pulling up. Dropping and pulling up. Just working on this motion. So if you've ever run with anybody who makes a lot of slapping sounds with their ankles, with their feet as they land, that loud sound, a lot of times that's because we're struggling with strength in our ankles, so we can't really control the motion. And so the more strength we build in our ankles, the more motion control we have. And I actually, there are different schools of thought. Some people like to keep their ankle in this flexed motion through the swing phase. And you can look at elites. Some of them are going to keep that flexion through their ankle in the swing phase. And some of them are going to come to this plantar flexion, okay, this point in the swing phase. Different schools of thought. When we work on our ankle strength and stability, it gives us the choice, right? It gives us the ability to notice which motion serves us best. And so having that strength and that stability can allow you to really figure out what your best running form is, instead of just defaulting to what our particular imbalances are causing us to run with. All right, so the last thing that we're going to be doing is I'm going to show you some warm-up drills. So some simple warm-up drills that you can do every time you go out for a run, or I recommend up to maybe like 4 times a week. You could do them daily if you wanted to, but you're really going to see benefits if you do these 3 or 4 times a week, and especially before hard efforts and long runs as well. So these exercises, again, are going to entrain that muscle memory about ankle strength, stability, and alignment. by engaging our whole lower kinetic chain. And it's also going to help us prevent shin splints by pumping oxygenated blood to our lower leg and really priming that lower leg for load. So the first thing I'm going to do is just some heel walks. And if you can imagine, I'm in a closer space, but I recommend doing about 10 or 20 meters of this. Okay, so walking on our heels, keeping our feet dorsiflexed. The next thing that we can do is we can pop up onto our toes, and we're gonna walk on our toes here. And as we're doing this, I'm gonna invite you, again, we're working the whole kinetic chain, head to toe. So being mindful of our alignment, keeping our tailbone flexed, engaging our core, and also engaging our glutes as we do this. So the next thing that we're gonna do is I'm gonna recommend just doing a little bit of hopping. Now we're gonna hop from our ankles and not our knees, but we don't wanna lock our knees out. So we're just priming for load. Now if hopping is not something that's comfortable for you, a variation of this could just be bouncing up and down on your toes. And if you want to hold on to something for some stability, that's totally fine. But you can even see there a little bit as I was doing it, I started kind of rolling over into my outer foot there. So this invites us to be really mindful of the motion of our body and what our tendency is. Next one we can do is called ankling. So we're just going to be pumping up and down with our feet. Again, I want to rise up through the ribs, and I want to feel my hips and my glutes activate. And you can see I kind of kicked my knee out as I did that, and then I just corrected, right? So next one we're going to do that about 10-20 meters as well. So the next one that I'm going to recommend that we do after the ankling is we're going to do a figure 4 drill. Okay, so you can hold on to something if that helps you, but you're just going to kind of take a flamingo pose. This is called figure 4 because when I pull my foot up, then I'm going to be in kind of this 4, like a number 4 motion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my heel up underneath my glute. I'm going to lift my knee. So it's kind of like a combo high knee and butt kick. But really what I want to do here is I want to paw back with my ankle, and I want to go from flexion to point. Okay, flexing to point. So as I pull up, and I'm going to do it kind of rapidly here. If you want to make it a cadence drill, it's kind of a cadence drill, but I'm not terribly concerned about cadence right now. And I want to do about 20 of these, maintaining my posture. So before you do figure 4s, if you're feeling a little bit tight, I do recommend starting with something that I call paw backs. So this is different from our butt kicks. So when we do butt kicks, a lot of times we're just yanking our heel up towards our glute, and our goal is to get them like high and kick our butts. And our hamstrings or glutes our hip flexors might not actually be warm enough for that. And so we're really, and it's not a super natural running motion to do that. So what we want to do is make this a bit more organic. So I'm just going to pretend that the ground is covered in eggshells. I'm going to take my feet and I'm going to scrape them back, okay? And while I do this, I want to make sure that I'm not leaning forward. And I'm going to do my best to tuck my tailbone and be mindful of my back alignment. So instead of doing this like pelvic tilt, this anterior pelvic tilt, I want to do my best to be mindful of keeping a neutral spine, knowing that for me, I'm working on like correcting this anterior pelvic tilt, so my tendency is going to be to bail out and get my butt sticking out here. So I just want to tuck my pelvis and scrape back with my ankles. So I'm scraping those eggshells back, and as I do this more and maintaining that level pelvis, I might find that I'm able to get my heels higher and higher more organically as my hip flexors open, my hamstrings warm up, my glutes engage, and then I'm building stability all the way through my core down to my ankles as well. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to take that paw back motion, we're going to take the figure 4, and we're going to put it into a pulling drill. So this is the last one I'm going to give you today that's going to help you warm up before your runs to prevent shin splints and to also help build that stability through your entire body down to your ankles. Okay, so this pulling drill, we're going to do a figure 4 with one leg, regular running motion with the other leg.
So I'm gonna pull this right leg up underneath me in that figure 4 and just take a normal running step with my left leg. I'm gonna do about 20 yards or 20 meters, either one would work, okay, with my right leg. And then I'm gonna do the same thing with my left leg. Okay, so it's a pull, a pull, a pull, a pull, a pull. Now while I'm doing this, I wanna make sure my eyes are up, my head is up, and the rest of my body is holding a nice running posture. So I've been training that entire stability. My whole body is working together towards my best and most empowered running. So thank you so much for watching. I hope these drills help you out. And go and run your most joyful and fierce story.